Why hello, welcome to Fifth Jack Gaming. This is Friday, so that means it's magic. And it's the last Friday of the month, so that means a deep dive of our future deck. So what we're going to be deep diving? Our deep dive of Slicer. This is going to end up breaking down exactly what Slicer is and the few upgrades that we ended up having in the process throughout the entire month. And if you're liking the content that I'm putting out, like, subscribe, and hit that little bell to be notified whenever I come with new content. Let's go over and visit the folks over at Moxfield, show you the deck. By the way, thank you to folks at Moxfield for allowing us to use your site. Alright, so we have Slicer being named as Pass Me a Slice. This is 2.0 because this is the upgrade version that we ended up having of the deck. And if you don't know what Slicer does, well, we'll break that down for you as well. So a big thing about Slicer, it has this more than meets the eye cost of 2 and a red, and that means we could end up playing this other side of Slicer for that cost. This does go up with the commander tax, so if this dies once and you try doing it this way, it's going to be 5, 7, and keeps on going up. But let's say we end up doing that. What you're going to get is Slicer High Speed Antagonist. It's a living metal, so as long as it's your turn, it's a creature. If it's not your turn, it's not a creature. Has first strike, haste, and whenever it deals combat damage, convert it at the end of combat. So, what does that convert over into? Slicer Hired Muscle. It's a 3/4 who has double strike, haste, and at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, you may have that player gain control of Slicer until end of turn. If you do, untype Slicer, goad it, and it can't be sacrificed this turn. If you don't, convert it. Well, let's be honest, people don't like to attack one another. This is making them have to attack people. Unless they have other shenanigans that gets around that, this goad mechanic makes that creature have to attack people other than you. It's not so great when it's heads up, but hey. And another big thing about it is that it can't be sacrificed. So, like, if they have a Goblin Bombardment, oh, that's easy. I'll sacrifice your Slicer to be able to do 1 damage to you. Ha ha ha. No, you can't. You can't do that. Slicer says it right on the card. You can't do that. But it's a solid because you're getting 3 damage right off the get-go on someone, and then you're getting 6 damage. And that damage is going to be adding up because whenever your opponent swing with Slicer, that's still commander damage. That counts against everyone, and, of course, yourself as well. So, if you don't know about commander damage, it's 21, and then you're out from 1 commander. It has to be from 1 commander, though. So, with that said, we have a whole bunch of artifacts, so we'll save the artifacts last, because you kind of want to go into the theme of artifacts with this. So we'll jump over to enchantments. We have 3 enchantments in total. We have Blood Moon, which is an enchantment that makes non-basic lands into mountains. So your guys, Cradles, Urborgs, and stuff like that. This makes it into a mountain. We have Entray, enchant creature. Enchant creature gets +3/+0 and can only attack alone. So when they have to swing with Slicer, they can't swing with anything else. So that prevents anything else going wide or something that they could send our way. Shiny Impetus is a +2/+2, and then you go to target creature. Whenever a enchanted creature attacks, you create a treasure token. So you could put this on Slicer, and then whenever that creature attacks, we'll get a treasure token. Solid plan. Or they have a big nasty that we don't want to be being swung at. So we can put this on that and make them swing it elsewhere. Because like I said, with the gold mechanic, gold makes it where it can't attack you, but it has to attack each turn. So that covers the enchantments parts of it. Now we're going to come to the nice boring part. I know the lands. I know. But we'll try to hustle to get right through it. We have Bury Ruin, which taps for our colors, or we could pay 2, sacrifice it, and return a target artifact from our graveyard to our hand. Great Furnace is an artifact or land that taps for red. Homeward Path taps for a colorless, or we could tap it, gain control of all creatures, or tap it, and each player gains control of all creatures they own. So we'll be able to bring Slicer back. So for a heads up, this is where we could give them Slicer and then bring it back. Adventure's Fair is at the beginning of your upkeep. If you control 3 or more artifacts, you gain 1 life. Taps for our colors, or we could pay for, sacrifice it, and search for our artifact card, reveal it, and put it into our hand. We only can activate this if we have 3 or more artifacts. Spoiler alert, we're going to have 3 or more artifacts. Maze of Ith is untap a target attacking creature, prevent all combat damage will be dealt to and dealt by that creature. So another way for a heads up, Mokoruru, Center of the Sea, tap for a colorless, or we could pay 2 and tap it and each player draws a card. So whenever you need to draw a card, that's right there. And then we have, how many of these bad boys do we have? We have 25 mountains in this deck. Followed by a Rogue's Passage, tap it for a colors, or pay 4 and make a target creature that can't be blocked this turn. Treasure Vault is another land that taps for a colorless, but we could tap 2 and sacrifice, and we get to create that many treasure tokens. And finally, but not least, we have Valakut, the Molten Pinnacle. It's a land that enters the battlefield tap, but whenever a mountain enters the battlefield under your control, if you control at least 5 other mountains, you may have Valakut Mountain Pinnacle deal 3 damage to any target. It's another little funness that we have with the deck. Since we covered that, we covered the commander, we have a few planeswalkers. When I say a few, it's 2 to be exact. We have Dreddy, which there's a whole list of things, but the main reason that we have him in here is to be able to bring stuff back from the graveyard, so we'll end up being able to do shenanigans back and forth. And then we have Jeska, Thrice Reborn. The main reason that we have her in here is because she gives triple damage. That's right, if we want to be taking someone out, we can end up doing triple damage with Slicer. Next up is the creatures. We have 9 creatures in total. Brass Squire costs us 3. We can tap it to equip a target equipment on a target creature that we control. Foundry Inspector costs us 3. Makes artifact spells cost 1 less to cast. Keldis Emberclaw Familiar is another fun creature that we could have in there, because whenever our commander has combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much whenever it deals combat damage to an opponent, it does that much damage to all of our other opponents. So, like if we swing with Slicer, we do 6 damage, everyone takes 6 damage. It's not commander damage because it's coming from Ketis, but hey, you gotta burn down that life total somehow. Lodestone Golem costs us 4 for a 5/3, but non-artifact spells cost 1 more to cast. Magus of the Moon, well, you see the moons in there, so he's a Blood Moon version with a creature body. Scrap Trawler is another one that we can end up swapping artifacts from our battlefield back to our graveyard and back and forth. Swap Welder is the exact same thing. Zimian Spirit Guy is a way to be able to rush him out. Get him out a little bit sooner. So bad, sacrifice an artifact, target artifact gains indestructible until end of turn. So it's a target artifact that becomes indestructible. Now we're coming over to the sorceries. That's right. We have 4 sorceries altogether. We have Pyroclasm, which does 2 damage to each creature. Reforge the Soul is a wheel effect. If you don't know what a wheel effect is that when you discard your hand and you draw your 7 cards. However, it does have this little miracle cost right here. That's if it's the first card that you draw, you can pay that instead of the 5. Rite of Flame is another way to ramp out. Wheel of Misfortune is another wheel effect, except for you have to pay life. And then we're coming over to instances. We have Built to Smash, Desperate Ritual. Well, Built to Smash is in there because it gives trample. Desperate Ritual is more ramp. Invigorate Rampage for trample. Magnetic Theft allows us to be instant speed, equip something over to a target creature. Monstrous Rage gives us trample. Pyretic Ritual is some more ramp. And Volcanic Fallout. This is the textless one, so you're not going to know what it says based off what the card says, because it says nothing. This spell can't be countered, though, and it deals 2 damage to each creature and each player. Alright, now we're coming to the piece de resistance. We're coming to the artifacts. Buckle up, because there are 40 of these bad boys that we have in the deck. Alright, here we go. We have Arcane Signet, which is ramp. Beantown Beatstick, it gives us menace, so it makes it a little bit harder to block. And then whenever a equipped creature deals combat damage or to a battle or a player, we get to create a treasure token. So the big thing about Slicer is they control Slicer, but we control the equipment. So whenever they swing with Slicer, we'll be getting this effect. Black Blade Reforged, so we have a +1/+1 for each land that you control. Cloud Key makes stuff cheaper, specifically one colorless cheaper. So we can end up doing Artifact, which will be a big thing, which will include our creatures into it. If we do Artifact, it'll include Slicer into it. We have Creature, Enchantment, Instants, or Sorceries. Most of the time, we go Artifact with this. Commander's Plate. Equipped creature gets +3/+3 and has protection from each color that is not your commander's identity. So, since it's only red, that means it can only be targeted by stuff that is red. Nothing else. Darksteel Plate is indestructible, and it gives your creatures indestructible. That's equipped to it. Diamond Pickaxe, indestructible as well. And it gets +1/+1. It has whenever this creature attacks, create a treasure token. Explorer Scope allows it whenever a creature attacks, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land, you may put it onto the battlefield tapped. Fire Diamond is ramp. Gold Vein Pick is a +1/+1. And then we get more treasure. Grafdigger's Cage is graveyard/library search hate. Hammer of Nisan is indestructible with a +2/+0 bonus to it. And when it comes onto the battlefield, we get to equip it to a target creature. Hero's Blade. Whenever a legendary creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may have it attached to it. And it gets +3/+2. Liquid Metal Torque is more ramp, but it also could end up making a target non-land permanent become an artifact in addition to its other types. Lotus Petal is another way to be ramping out. Mask of Memory is more draw, or should I be saying looting, because you end up drawing 2 cards and then you discard a card from your hand. Mind Stone is ramp, but in the late game, we could end up sacrificing it to draw a card. Marin Bane Splitter has flash, so it can be played at instant speed. And then when it enters the battlefield, it taps into a target creature, and it gets +2/+0. Mithril Coat is another dark steel blade where it's indestructible, and when it comes into play, we get to equip it and making the creature indestructible. Mox Opal is more rampant. Nemesis takes account of each artifact and or enchantment that you control. It gets +1/+1 for each of those that we end up controlling. It's a living weapon. As long as it's not equipped, it would have that size as a 0/0 germ token that's attached to it. However, when you equip it, that token goes bye-bye, and that thing is no longer a living weapon. It's just a weapon. Nim Death Mantle, it gives +2/+2. Intimidate, so that means it could be only blocked by red stuff. And it's a black creature. Or black zombie. And then a non-token, instead of going into the graveyard, we could put it underneath the Nim Death Mantle to be able to make sure that we end up saving it. Aganada is something that can be attached to a creature with 3 or more power. And it gets +3/+0 and that lovely word of trample. Prowler's Helm. Equipped creature can't be blocked except by walls. Most people don't run walls, surprisingly. However, if you run up against a Hades, that makes you really sad. Prying Blades, another little buff, but then we get an artifact. Rogue's Gloves allows us to be able to draw a card whenever we deal combat damage to a player. Strength Testing Hammer is it gets a +X/+0 for whatever the result is of rolling a D6. So it could get out +6/+0. With Slicer, that could be pretty potent because that could be 9, that could be 18 damage right off the get-go. And if we swung at him to convert it, that would be an instant kill. Sword of Hearth and Home, it gets +2/+2. And it gets protection from green and white. Protection from green is pretty good. White is also protection from white. It's also pretty good because then you can't hit it with Path to Exile, Generous Gift, Beast Within, stuff like that. But when it deals combat damage to a player, you get to sacrifice or you get to exile up to 1 target creature you control. And then search your library for a basic land and put both cards onto the battlefield you control, then shuffle. Once in the Future gives us Pro Blue, gives us +2/+2, and Pro Blue, Pro Black. And then whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, Surveil 2. So that means we get to look at the top 2 cards, and then we can either put them in the graveyard or keep them on top. Then you may cast an instant or sorcery with a mana value of 2 or less from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. That spell would be put into the graveyard instead of If that would be put into the graveyard, exile it instead. Sword of the Animus gets +1/+1, but when an equipped creature attacks, you get to look for a basic land. Some ramping. Tells you go maul. Gives a equipped creature +1/+1. But if it's a legendary creature, it gets an additional +2/+2. As long as it's a red, it has trample. So with Slicer, it gets +3/+3, and it gains trample. Thought Vessel is ramping, and then no maximum hand size. But let's be honest, you're gonna play out your hand anyways. And then we have Thran Power Suit, which gets +1/+1 for each aura and equipment. Equipped creature, or gets +1/+1 for each aura and equipment attached to it, and has Ward 2. Ward 2 is pretty good protection. Trailblazer Boots gives us basic land, or non-basic land walk, so if they have a non-basic, we'll be able to swing in with no problem. As well, Legit gives us a whole slew of choices that we can have. We can remove a counter from it, and then we get to choose to either give +2/+2, -1/-1, or gain 2 life. For Battle Horns, equipped creature has trample and can't be blocked by more than 1 creature. Weathered, Ruined Stone, non-land permanent cards in graveyards and libraries can't enter the battlefield. Players can't cast spells from the graveyards or libraries. It's another Grafdigger's Cage. Weldendar, we could be able to sacrifice it to regenerate a target artifact. Zephyr's Boots, it gets flying, and whenever a equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card, and then discard a card. So we get to rummage over through our deck. Alright, so that covers that. So we'll come back over with our final thoughts and breakdowns that we have with the deck. And welcome back. So Slicer is one of those who I try to get out and get out early. So you normally go, the best I've done is turn 1, be able to cast it right off the get-go and be able to start swinging with it. But 2 is normally to justify that you normally can end up casting Slicer at. You want to first get them to be able to convert. That's why you want to get it out early. And then, then you want to be able to get them out early because you want to have them to convert. And most likely, people aren't going to have blockers or they're still in the process of setting up. It's also nice because it goes around the table, making everyone else have to do the work for you as well. Making everyone attack is something that sometimes some metas don't end up liking to do, and this deck allows that to end up not being the case. You have to attack. However, this does have some hate. This does have some hate with it, and it's important to say that this could be a CDH deck as well. You can tune it a little bit better to be able to make that happen. It's a very powerful deck out of the box, and it does what it wants. It slices, it dices, and it makes you win games. Sounds like a fun thing. Have you played Slicer? Let us know down in the comments down below. And if you're liking the content that we're putting out, like, subscribe, and hit that little bell icon to be notified whenever we come out with new content. Thank you for watching, and until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.